Don't forget, these people believe that they're going to defeat God on Judgment Day. They're convinced of it through technology. They've been brainwashing people with superheroes and, ooh, you could be, what's your superpower? I've been talking about it for years.
Tonight, we are going to be going over a call for an uprising in a most recent video of his where he claims that graphene is going to be powered by 5G towers as well as the CERN super collider in order to control us in some way. I think that it's like to lengthen our lives or something like that. And then I think there has something to do with like exploding our cells or something, or maybe, I'm not sure. I mean, we're going to have to figure it out. It's kind of a long video, so we're going to have a sort of abbreviated introduction tonight into everything. So we're going to be jumping into it rather quickly tonight. If you want to find out the newest conspiracy theory concerning graphene, 5G, the CERN super collider, and vaccines, I guess, then please stay tuned. What's up, heathens? How y'all doing? Here to this dumbass video. Thank you so much for choosing Godless Engineer in order to analyze your crazy conspiracy theories. This video was sent to me a couple of times on multiple social media accounts. One on Facebook, one on Twitter. People seem to be very concerned about the information that he was putting out here. It's titled Urgent! Save a Life! I highly recommend that you watch and share this video ASAP. Now this is what I would call clickbait, and it's like the bad kind of clickbait people hate because it doesn't deliver on it. Like there's nothing that you can actionably do from the video that would cause you to save someone's life. It's also not urgent. It's bullshit. All right, so let's get in on this video. I'm gonna mute myself and hopefully I'll remember to unmute myself so that we don't have any kind of fucking echoes.
If you've ever had this feeling that something was terribly wrong with the world that we live in, but you couldn't figure out just what it was, then you've come to the right place. Secret societies, mystery religions, and the Illuminati have been controlling our reality since the beginning of time. But not anymore, because there is an awakening happening, and you are about to become a part of it. Wake up, because this is a call for an uprising.
Yeah, I just have to say, his introduction is always like a fantastic, I get like animation. And I say fantastic in the most ridiculous of senses because it's a completely ridiculous opening. I mean, he has Jesus grab a bunch of vaccine syringes and stab them, and I guess that's Dr. Fauci? I don't know if that's Dr. Fauci or Bill Gates. Both of them want you to get vaccinated. It could be one or the other. But anyways, Jesus stabs him in the back and then kicks Satan in the balls. Or I guess that's technically Baphomet. That's not Satan. That's Baphomet. So, I mean, they're over the top, crazy, and it makes me laugh every time I see one of his openings. And I don't know if he means for them to be like really sarcastic and ridiculous, but that's how it comes across. And so I like watching the openings because he had, at one point in time, he had Baphomet shit his diaper and then Jesus kicked him in the balls. And so it's I don't know. They're hilarious to me. They're hilariously ridiculous in my opinion. But all right, let's see.
This is a call for an uprising. Welcome to today's show. Or should I say, this is a call for the science guy.
Science rules.
Bill Nye the Science Guy.
Inertia is a property of matter. Bill.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Just like those failed optometrists, I'm a failed scientist. I always wanted to be a scientist because, science is so cool, right?
I highly disagree that he was ever any kind of scientist in order to fail to be a scientist. Like, unless you call failing to be a scientist meaning that you failed to, go to college or you failed to do anything that resembles science, then I guess he's a failed scientist. But the way that he talks on his channel, I just simply cannot believe that he was ever part of any kind of scientific discipline in order to fail at it. You got to be in it in order to fail it, okay? And I just really don't think that he was ever there.
Science is the worst, but today, because I know how you all feel about it too, there is obviously real things involved with science, right? Obviously, we know that, right? But I think people like us, Christians, just never really cared, because why do you want to learn these? Oh, well, for the advancement of society and all this other crap that they tell you and why we need to do this and do that. Fine. Okay, well, I know how boring it is to listen to science teachers and science guys, so I'm going to give you a small science lesson here.
Spoiler alert, you don't learn any fucking science from him. He plays clips of other people talking about science, but you're not going to learn any science from him. This is not a science lesson or anything. If you want to be educated into ignorance, then you watch A Call for an Uprising.
And I want to talk about carbon, and I want to talk about graphene. And you want to know why I want to talk about it? Well, because of a magic potion ride. That's right. And you'll be able to connect the dots. So let's start. For those of you, just clear your head. We'll do this nice and easy. And I'll try to make sure these people who speak are nice and simple and quick and to the point as I edit this. Let's start with carbon. What is carbon?
That one element.
Definitely, he's speaking from a very fundamentalist point of view. And so he would consider any Christian that accepts science for the fact that it is, or scientific discoveries rather, for the facts that they are, he would consider them not to be real Christians or to be deluded by Baphomet, I guess, maybe, or Satan or something like that. Basically not real Christians or not Christian enough is how he would characterize those people. I'm not going to play the Breaking Bad clip here. It's basically just Walter White before he goes all drug kingpin, and he's in his class and he's describing carbon-based life and how carbon is important to all life here on Earth and everything like that.
Okay, that's carbon. Right? Now, you'll be surprised to know that carbon, well, I'll just let her tell you herself about carbon and graphene.
Carbon is an essential element of life and is also one of the most abundant elements on Earth. Carbon occupies a place in the second row of the periodic table, right above silicon. A single carbon atom consists of 6 protons, 6 or 7 neutrons, and 6 electrons. 6 protons, 6 or 7 neutrons, and 6 electrons.
Whoa, what did she say? Did she say 6 or 7 and 6? Let me just look that up. No, that would be 6 protons, 6 electrons, and 6 neutrons. That's pretty interesting when you think about it, right? Because that's an interesting number that, he with knowledge will understand, right? When it comes to this mark that's potentially coming at some point. Not saying one way or other this is or isn't, but remember, with the manipulation of your body and the control of the DNA, well, listen to this scientist continue.
Before that, so the ridiculous picking out of numbers like 666 in order to try to suggest that it's the mark of the beast or Satan has something to do with the fact that we're all carbon-based life forms and all this other stuff or anything like that is just ridiculous. Of course, he covers his ass, right? And saying, I'm not saying one way or the other. I'm just saying it's kind of fucking interesting that carbon has 666 in it, huh? Makes you think, if you are in the knowledge and in the know of bullshit, that it's Satan. Satan's in the carbon. Carbon is the element of Satan. It is the Satan element in the periodic table. Satan used it to create all life on Earth. Wait, that was God. Wait a second. Is God Satan now? If God created all life on Earth, is God actually Satan? Does 666 actually describe God in his point of view now. That's regardless of whether he's correct about the number of the neutrons in there. It's a symbiotic relationship between who? God and Satan? Satan is Venom and God is Eddie Brock. Sometimes Satan takes over and he just has a little bit of fun out there and eats people. I thought about cutting out all of the extra footage that he put in of the woman talking, but I feel like it's very important to hear how he twists information, because he's going to have a long segment here of this TEDx talk, right? But you're going to notice the part that he really only focuses on and he highlights, and it's important for his narrative. So just you'll be able to see it. I promise you.
Well-known example of carbon is the tip of pencils. The tip of pencils consists of graphite, which refers to a collection of carbon atoms, layers of carbon atoms. Each layer of the carbon atoms form a honeycomb structure, which is called graphene. Although scientists know that graphene layers are the constituents for graphite, but for years they were not sure whether a monolayer of graphene can be isolated in nature. Until 2004, when two British physicists finally demonstrated that a single atomic layer of graphene can be isolated and stabilized in nature. The excellent electrical and thermal conductivity combining with the optical transparency makes it possible for graphene to be applied to nanoelectronics in integrated circuits, to optoelectronic components like solar cells, light-emitting diodes, lasers, and display panels. The flexible and strong mechanical properties of graphene can be used for lightweight, high-strength materials applicable to things such as transportation vehicles, airplanes. The excellent chemical filtering capabilities of graphene makes it possible for graphene to be used in desalination, detoxification, chemical sensing, DNA sequencing. So here I will give you two examples of our ongoing research to give you a flavor of what can be done. The first example is a little exotic. It's called nanoscale strain engineering of graphene. The purpose is for novel optoelectronic applications. One of the most interesting properties of graphene is that if you distort the structure of graphene at the nanoscale, you can actually fundamentally change the electronic properties of graphene. And so now we have essentially flawless pieces of graphene. I can use nanofabrication technology to build nanostructures wherever I want them to be with whatever shapes I want them to be. Then I can lay a layer of graphene over such nanostructures to produce the distortion that I want, and therefore I can get the electronic properties that I want.
Okay, I know like TED Talks aren't for everybody, but I mean, you guys heard where he slowed down the DNA sequencing, right? So he's focusing on that, but also that second part right after that was also very important to his conspiracy theory. So what he's going to do now is he's going to twist all of this together into a narrative that he wants to tell. Remember, conspiracy theories always start from nuggets of truth that are strung together with an end goal in mind, with like a narrative that they want to tell. And so they take little pieces of truth from whatever's said, and they build this narrative. And so I want you guys to kind of listen to how he constructs his narrative from what that lady said. Graphene is used in a lot of things, and it can in the future it can revolutionize a lot of things, like those flexible screens that you've been seeing, the folded screens or whatnot. Those most likely use graphene in a lot of their components, because graphene's very flexible, but it's also highly conductive. And so what that gives you is a way to make these circuits that are highly flexible instead of rigid, like silicon. And so you don't get these rigid chips. You get something that's a bit more flexible. That's due to graphene. Graphene, I mean, it's been theorized for a while that you could get a single sheet of graphene, but I believe it was in 2003 is what the lady said. They were actually able to isolate a single atomic sheet of graphite, which is known as graphene. And so graphite's been known for a while. We've been using them in pencils for the longest time. So graphene's highly used in the technology sector as well as other materials. It's a very strong material, so it's used to reinforce a lot of things. There's just a lot of different uses in it. And one of the uses is DNA sequencing. Now, I don't know if maybe he's just thinking too much about DNA sequencing, but that's basically just, analyzing DNA. And graphene can actually be used to make more efficient DNA sequencers. And we can actually detect things with more accuracy using graphene. And I'm not going to try to explain how the graphene DNA sequencers will work or do work. Just know that it's supposed to make DNA sequencing more reliable and easier to do. And so that's what it's used in as far as DNA. Using graphene is not the same using graphene to sequence DNA is not the same thing as CRISPR. But I feel like he's going to make the assumption that it's like CRISPR.
Oh, this is very interesting stuff. Very interesting. She even went as far to talk about DNA sequencing. Okay, so this compound that they've discovered, this carbon compound, graphene, which happens to have 6 protons, 6 electrons, 6 neutrons.
A little bit of a correction here. While graphene has been hypothesized, it's been there in the form of graphite for the longest time. So it's not that it's just been recently discovered or anything like that. It's just that we've recently been able to isolate a single atomic sheet of it. Graphene is it's a lattice of carbon atoms. So the graphene itself doesn't have 6 neutrons, 6 protons, 6 electrons. Graphene is composed of carbon atoms, which are of that makeup. So, I don't know if he was thinking that the graphene only has like those things or what. I don't know if he was confused about what graphene is, but just to say it's made up of multiple carbon atoms, which they themselves are made up of Satan molecules.
Just so happens to be the future. They're saying it everywhere. Just look it up. It's the miracle cure. It's the miracle. It's gonna solve water crises. You can be able to take ocean water and turn it into regular tap water. It's gonna solve everything. This carbon graphene that they've just recently, wink wink, discovered.
Okay, so saying carbon graphene is just a bit redundant because graphene itself is made up of carbon. You don't have to specify that carbon makes it up. Okay, that's another thing. Also, it's not a magical cure for anything. It doesn't cure anything. It can be used in a lot of different things. It is very useful in several things, like the desalination of seawater. Graphene can be very helpful just because of its properties. Also, graphene conducts heat and electricity very well. So it has multiple uses in technology. It's also a very strong material, so it can be used to reinforce different materials. It can be used in a lot of things. That doesn't mean that it's a miracle cure or anything like that. It's just very versatile in its use. That's it.
Although they've just recently gotten this thing mastered and they're currently testing it out. I won't tell you how, but I think you know how. On humans, right? So then you could think about that and you could say, Cole, okay, so this stuff can manipulate. This is cool. It's electromagnetic. We've seen phones react to it and stuff like that. Okay, right. Now,
well, phones. So phones have electrical circuits in them. Graphene conducts electricity. So yes, graphene can be used in circuits. Like I was talking about before with the foldable screens and everything like that, the reason why that those are able to be created is because of graphene. Materials like graphene. It's a very flexible thing. So, I mean, yeah, there are some phones out there that would be using graphene, but I don't. He's trying to weave this into some kind of like graphene is in everything, and that's going to mean something later.
Let me play a little clip here from Rice University because they're really into the graphene technology. Your tax money at work, I believe, or your university dollars, one way or the other. They were so excited for graphene that they wanted you to experiment with it on your food. Why do you ask? I have no idea. Think about it.
Now, I want to specify here. He's like, I have no idea why they'd want to use graphene on food and everything like that. He had to have watched the video before putting it in. I just want you to keep that in mind. He doesn't know why they want to use graphene on foods, but yet he's watched the video that he's about to show us. So just keep that in mind right there. Also, I saw Jane ask what graphene is. Graphene is a single layer of carbon atoms that are connected in a lattice type structure. And it's just the way that carbon can form into this arrangement. Multiple different layers of graphene are used to create graphite, which is in pencil lead. So that's all that it is. It's a single sheet of atoms from the tip of a pencil.
Been able to make graphene on many different substrates. Previously, we could only make graphene on materials that were like polyimide, a particular type of polymer. But now what we found is by tuning the laser a little bit differently and defocusing the laser, which first carbonizes the material, and then we take the carbonized material and convert it into graphene. So what you see here is you don't see ink. This is not ink. This is not the addition of ink to a material. This is taking the material itself, the wood itself, and converting it into graphene. And the laser allows us to write it into any pattern that we wish. This is on a piece of wood, or we can do it even on foods, like this is a potato. So remember what graphene is. It's these single atomic thick sheets of graphite, and now we take these and we put a few of them on top of each other as we convert the material itself, a piece of bread, and so you can convert the carbohydrates that are within bread to graphene, or we can do it on a coconut, so you can take a coconut and convert that into graphene. Now, why would we want to have something like this? This is all conductive, and so it can conduct electricity. So what we can do now is we can make electronics embedded within fabrics. Why would one want edible electronics? Well, first of all, let me start with, very often we don't see the advantage of something early on, but when we make it available, people start seeing the real advantage. So can you even have electronics embedded on food and then say use this as a heat circuit to heat the food more easily? If there's, say, an RFID tag written onto this potato, where has it been, how long has it been stored, what's its country of origin and its city of origin, and what path did it go to get to your table? All that can be embedded not on a separate tag that's placed on the food, but directly on the food itself. And these can also have sensors that would detect E. coli, sensors that would detect microorganisms that you might not want. They could immediately light up and give you a signal that you don't want to eat this. So being able to barcode food, in a sense, could have real advantages.
Okay, so I see in the chat how everybody's identified this guy as a creationist scientist and all this other stuff. I'm not sure who the guy is, but it really doesn't matter because, I mean, regardless of what he says and the implications of using graphene on foods, that's just simply not being done right now, like in your foods or in the public space or anything like that. When I first saw the clip, I was like, it looks like a dude that's playing around with lasers. Right? I mean, like, he etched things on there, but I mean, it's just sheets of graphene. And while graphene is conductive, I'm not exactly sure how viable it is for the thing that he's proposing. to do. Now, that's not to say that it's impossible or anything like that. I mean, that's not my field of expertise. But the fact that he's got this guy from Rice who is basically playing with lasers and etching things onto food with a graphene laser, I guess. It kind of seems like he's picking and choosing, right? He's cherry picking. He picks the TEDx lady over there for, graphene is used in these ways for DNA sequencing and oh yeah, carbon is 666. And now this guy from Rice is using lasers in order to draw shit on food. Now comes his conspiracy theory that he's going to be throwing at us, okay? So it really doesn't matter who that guy is or what kind of technology he's developed or what he's proposing. It doesn't really matter because it's simply not being done in the public space. It's not being done to your foods now. None of that is a real thing that's happening right now.
Okay, so they're experimenting even with getting graphene on your food. Now, what is the point of this? They want it inside your body. Right. And then you think about it. Because, I know somebody, I have a friend who even told me that they were, magnetic to stuff and they didn't get a magic potion. So wouldn't that kind of explain why regular people who don't even have it are having this problem? Because
he just proposed that normal people have been consuming graphene-laced foods for a long time and they are magnetic without getting a vaccine. You're not magnetic. You're sweaty. You're sweaty, and that's it. Shit sticks to you. So basically, people have been consuming this graphene, and that's why they're magnetic. For one thing, graphene doesn't make you magnetic. Like, if you ingest pencil lead, you don't automatically become magneto. Okay? That's not how that works. I mean, granted, you shouldn't be eating graphite, nor should you probably be eating graphene, although I would say that there's probably tolerable levels of graphene. I've seen studies that have been done on graphene ingestion that have somewhat proven to be toxic if you eat like enough graphene or whatnot. He's suggesting that food has been laced with graphene for the longest time. So he's taken this Rice video of this creationist scientist proposing that we can draw circuitry using graphene on foods and detect whether or not it's good or not. And he has automatically pushed it out into the public as if everybody is already doing this. All the food is already laced with graphene, even though when you go to the fucking store, you don't see pencil drawings on your food. You don't see any drawings or anything like that on your tomato. Of course, this conspiracy-laden fuck would say that, you can't see them. That's how they trick you into eating food. I don't know. The fact is that your friend's not Magneto. They were not magnetized, and non-magnetic shit was not sticking to them because they are magnetized. They just needed a shower because they were sweaty and oily as fuck.
Graphene's, okay, magnetic, electric current, interesting. Now, what in the world, could trigger these things and turn these things on, right? Kind of like that clip I showed you from Stretch Armstrong, right? The smart mark. What in the world well, there's these towers that are going up, and there's these massive colliders. You remember our old friends at CERN? Remember them? We was always, So, just so that we can recap where we're at in this conspiracy theory, the government or private industries have been sewing graphene onto our foods for a long time, and we've been ingesting them, right? And so people that don't get the vaccines become magneto and have shit stick to them all the time. Now he's saying, what can power these things? Well, for one thing, even if graphene could become magnetic, it would need an electrical current to drive through it. So I guess he's supposing that if you apply an electrical current to graphene, it then becomes magnetic, which is not how it works. He's suggesting that 5G towers are providing wireless power to the small layers and particles of graphene that are floating around in our bodies that we've been eating for the longest time. And also, for some reason, CERN is involved. The super collider apparently has the ability to wirelessly charge the graphene.
Or maybe they pound the graphene with electricity or something like that. Never mind the fact that the super collider just collides, atoms together, and they do scientific experiments that might open up black holes and swallow us completely. I don't think that last one's all that viable of a thing, but that's what some people say. But in any case, he thinks that the super collider is powering the graphene in our cells wirelessly. And then I guess maybe the 5G towers are worked in there too, because they also provide power, which 5G is just the next edition of 4G. And in fact, 4G and 5G regularly have to work together in order to provide a full service and all that. And there's 3 different tiers of 5G, low, mid, and high. And 5G is really only out there to help us push more information through wireless technology and give us faster download speeds and allow different wireless things that require a lot of information to be just pushed through the pipe. But never mind all that, because it's definitely used to power the graphene in our bodies. 5G super magnetic super turds. That's right. When you take a shit, they become magnetic. That's why your toilet clogs on occasion.
Remember them? The destroyer outside, the Kali, the Shiva, whatever outside? Yeah, interesting. They have the power to charge this. So by charging this and then having this possibly inside, it could almost make you think you could live forever. All right.
Now, I don't, what the fuck does that even mean? Honey, you heard it. What the fuck does that mean?
I have no idea.
Okay, so KC, my lovely wife over there, has no idea. I have no idea. What does it mean for the graphene in your body after it's been powered by CERN and the 5G towers that makes you think that you can live forever? Like, where is he getting that? Like, I don't even know where he pulled that from, like, earlier. I don't think that he pulled it from anything. I think this is part of the fictional portion of his narrative. He's taken all of these things and putting them together, and now he's starting to draw these fictional lines because he assumes that everybody wants to live forever, or that the devil wants you to think that you can live forever or something like that. I don't know if he knows this, but in the Garden of Eden, in Genesis, it was God that promised Adam and Eve that they could live forever. It was just Satan, or the serpent rather, that said, hey, you're not going to die if you eat this little fruit. If they didn't eat the fruit, then they would have lived forever. They wouldn't have died. It was God that was promising them eternal life in the first place. So I don't understand why he's like juggling all of these things all at once in order to get this narrative. Like, it just makes no sense to me. I have no idea why supercharged graphene from the CERN super collider is going to make me feel immortal. Like, I don't understand that.
Because that's always been the goal. To try to live forever. To try to not face what's coming. But they're going to face it one way or the other. And remember this verse from the book of Revelation, chapter 9, verse 6. In those days, men will seek death and will not find it. They will long to die, but death will not escape them. It's kind of interesting when you start piecing things together and where we're headed right now and why it's important to talk about this stuff.
So he's getting the idea that it makes you feel immortal from Revelation, because apparently in Revelation it says something about living forever, being deceived into living forever, or something like that. You see the progression here where he starts out with the different talks by scientists, even the creationist one, and he kind of puts all of that together to give the basis of his conspiracy theory. And then he draws imaginary lines to his narrative being Revelation and the end times and the coming of Satan and all this other stuff. That's where he's eventually getting to with it. I mean, none of this actually connects. He's fabricating these lines of connection.
Right now, especially. And to prepare. Don't forget, these people believe that they're going to defeat God on Judgment Day. They're convinced of it through technology. They've been brainwashing people with superheroes and, you could be, what's your superpower? I've been talking about it for years.
So now Now, superheroes are part of this agenda and everything. Nothing in the Marvel or the DC universe says that everybody can become a superhero. There's nothing in there whatsoever that says any of that. And plus, they're fictional stories in the first place. Why would anybody think that applies to real life? Why would anybody think that they're programming us for any of that? Also, why the fuck would he think that atheists or people that don't believe in God would think that we're going to destroy God in the end times with technology? I don't know if he's claiming like atheists are doing this, or I guess maybe he thinks we're all Satanists. Maybe, I don't know. Like it seems kind of weird that he thinks that we think that we're going to destroy God in the end times. Like it. I don't like. What are we gonna have some kind of magical like God missile that we're just gonna fire at his asshole and it's apparently gonna blow him up from the inside? Or are our multiple like superpowers? Are we gonna be able to combine them and get Captain Planet's ass down here and he'll kick God's ass? Is that what's gonna happen? I don't know. I feel like at this point you could say pretty much any fucking thing.
Why do you think that is? Just creative art? What is it, art for dorks? I mean, come on. No, what's your super? I want to fly.
What? Also, it would be fucking fantastic if I could fly. Okay, like it would be that would be an awesome superpower. I think that there are also some problems with that. Like, I don't know how I would fucking fly through the air, you know, and not sustain any kind of wind damage. What if I run into a bird? That's gonna fuck me up. Fabio did that one time, and it nearly fucked his entire career up. I mean, I'm not saying that I'm anywhere near Fabio level in my good looks. According to my wife, Fabio's ridiculous. But my point is that there are multiple problems with flying if you want to take it into reality. But because they're fantasy, because they're not real, they're fictional stories, we don't necessarily have to engage in that kind of thinking when we're talking about fictional stories. He's making fun of people that like superhero stories and superhero movies and cinema. Well, the cinema and movies, same thing, but media is what I meant. And he's making fun of them. It's like, oh, I want to fly. Oh, I want to become magnetic. It's like, apparently people are already becoming Magneto. So yeah, he considers them nerd things, and apparently being a nerd is bad. Yeah, I mean, that's how you can make money on occasion.
Interesting. Well, as they've said, with this type of technology, you could be like Iron Man. You could be bulletproof. That's the type of stuff that graphene can do.
Nobody's talking about, like, I guess maybe he might be thinking about like a graphene, maybe grafting graphene underneath your skin. One of the Hitman movies where they tried to do a movie about Hitman, I think it was the last one that they did. I do believe like one of the guys had like armor that was grafted onto his body underneath his skin. I can't remember what it was called, but they used some kind of like medical type term for it. But I wonder if he's thinking about that. I mean, graphene is used to reinforce certain materials in order to make them stronger. I don't recall if it's used like in body armor or anything. You would think that it would be, but at the same time, I mean, I don't think that makes you bulletproof. Like, it definitely wears down. Like, it doesn't make you bulletproof. It just provides protection.
Just a matter of getting it in your body. You put those dots together and connect it and see where we're headed as we head towards what will be.
And so what he does is he lays out all of these little dots, right? All these little points. He's like, you connect the dots and tell me where you end up. Well, yeah, if you build a bullshit fantastical story, this conspiratorial web of fiction, then yeah, it's going to lead to your narrative conclusion. But that doesn't make it reality. And everything that he said in this, as far as the conspiracy goes, is not reality. He wants you to think it's reality, but it's not.
The mark. I hope this video helped you in some way. I have other videos on the topic, and there'll be more that I'm trying to word to get up, you know? It's kind of not easy, but got to figure out how. But I have other videos. If you haven't seen them, watch them. Share them. Let people know. Now you know why people are lighting up a little bit? All right.
I agree. Everybody should share this particular video out where we make fun of his crazy conspiratorial idea. I think everybody should definitely do that. That's going to be it for his video. I mean, it's still got like a minute left, but there's really nothing left to talk about with it. So we're just going to pop right back on over here. I really appreciate everybody joining me tonight for this crazy conspiratorial video. I know it was kind of long, so I appreciate you guys sticking with me. I appreciate everybody that, did a super chat. You guys are awesome. Hey, if you're going to be leaving out right now because we're done with the video, don't forget to smash that like button. It really helps us out here. Also, if you will, subscribe if you're not already subscribed. If you're chatting in the side chat, you're already subscribed. So I appreciate you guys. I hope you guys have an awesome weekend. I will see you guys, early on Monday, and I hope that you guys will stand up and use your voice. Bye, heathens.